Hello, and welcome to A Night with the Dark Knight, the show that takes a look at Batman through the ages, for better or for worse.
With your dynamic duo, Aidan Gula.
And me, George Ellis.
And tonight, we'll be taking a look at Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes. Kind of a spin-off / film adaptation thing from Batman the Animated Series. No, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which Aidan had never seen until watching it last night.
And really, I still haven't. I was so tired, I couldn't tell you what happened.
So this is
I can.
This is going to be a fun little podcast where everyone will get to watch Aidan.
Right. My theory with these kind of podcasts is that if you want a review, the thing's bloody 20 years old, 30 years old. You can go and find a review anywhere. So we're not just going to go, let's do a review of Batman Mask of the Phantasm. It's like, well, how boring is that? So I wanted to ask you, let's have a question. Let's have something to answer like we did with Batman, the animated series last week. We didn't just go, is Batman the animated series good? No, we went, is it the definitive Batman?
And yes.
So this time I wanted to have a question. So when I was watching it, I was focusing on the question, which just meant that because I was so tired, that was all I could pay attention to. It got to a point in the film when I thought, I don't actually understand what's happening anymore because I was only focusing on Batman. My favorite bit was the Batman flashbacks. I was like, yeah, I'm loving these. And then when suddenly the Phantasm takes the helmet off and it's that ginger woman, I was like, I can't really remember your name, but sure. Okay, you're the Phantasm. And then you told me that a dad died, and I was like, don't remember that.
I don't know. That's like a big part of the plot. That's just I don't remember that bit.
The last I remember of the dad was when he's going, come on, we need to get out of here. That was it. That's the last scene I remember. He was kind of crawling around on the floor doing something. That's the last I remember. I don't know who killed him.
The Joker.
When?
But it was Proto Joker. They did it. There was a scene where Batman had that painting, yeah? He then drew on Joker's face on one of the guys on the painting, photo thing, and that was the Joker before he became the Joker in Batman the Animated Series.
I have no recollection of this.
My God. Right, okay. So if for all those listening / watching, if you haven't seen Mask of the Phantasm, you'll be able to relate to Aidan because he is a bit dumb. If you have seen it, relate to me because I'm not dumb. That's what we're going to say.
But if you want to review, you're not getting one. We're here to answer a question.
Yeah, we are.
And I'm going to answer that question.
And the question is Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Batman the Animated Series at its best? Basically, does it encapsulate everything the series tries to do? And does it elevate it? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question.
So that's what my notes are on.
Yeah, that's what you focused on. So we'll be able to answer the crux. Is Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Batman the Animated Series at its best? That's what we're going to try and focus on answering in this podcast episode. If there'll be a fair bit of jumping around because that's what we usually do, but that's the focus. But no, the film starts off with the Batman the Animated Series theme, but as an operatic version
thing
with a choir and that kind of thing. And I think it's really rather nice because it's kind of creepy and it makes the film feel like a bigger event, I think.
I agree.
Okay, sorry. I just quite like
that's as far as I can register the music in this film.
Okay,
it was
fair enough.
Oh, I noticed the opera theme, and the rest of it was just Batman Animated Series music, as far as I'm concerned.
Fair enough. Well, I just quite liked it.
I saw this article this morning. Actually, it was obviously based on things I've recently been googling. I probably googled last night what the hell happens in Mask of the Phantasm. But I got an article this morning that came up suggested on Google about Mask of the Phantasm, and it was this thing arguing whether it's the best Batman film of all time. And I was reading it and going, is it? I don't remember it being that good. But that's because I don't really know what happened.
Some of you at home might think, why don't you just postpone this and have Aidan rewatch it? Because Aidan won't rewatch it because he's stubborn. But we might as well
or because I've got 3 more days to record a podcast and then I'm off for a week.
forgot you were going on holiday. That's also quite.
So this is the last chance. This is the one and only shot we get to do this.
But hey, at least he enjoyed the music and thought it was good. That's it.
Until the end. Until the end, and then it was the worst Batman music I've heard in my life.
I love how out of everything, what you've remembered here is the power ballad.
That was the biggest thing when I was like, what are you doing?
Because you're probably just sitting there, just chilling on your phone, and then you just hear a power ballad, and it's like, what the hell?
It was like the film. It was the end of this big dramatic thing, explosions everywhere. It's like, yeah, it's all really gothic and Batman, and then it's like with all this like piano and stuff. And I thought, what is going on? That's the biggest thing to have an impact on me with this film.
Power ballads.
Yes.
I was going to say wonderful. They're not.
I don't have any negative points though, so. Not that I didn't enjoy it, I just don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have.
Okay, although you couldn't appreciate it as much as you probably should have because you didn't
watch it.
Yes. Because you've never watched it before, and this is probably, you've at least watched more than you had last. Did you enjoy it?
I'd say I've watched 60% more than I had before.
Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it up until I stopped understanding what was going on. But I did generally enjoy it. I thought it was really nice. For to say it's an encapsulation of Batman the Animated Series is definitely true, and I think it kind of expands on things where they go. Because Batman the Animated Series is great, and we talked last week about how you get the episodes we discussed last week are very much kind of very character episodes, except Joker's favourite. That's just because he had the Joker in it and we want to talk as Joker one. So you've got very character kind of episodes there, and I suppose Forgotten, which is the one that we both forgot to watch, is another example of that. But generally it's kind of just Batman and the villain of the week, go. Whereas this is a bit more like, yeah, we've got the villain, but what if we kind of expanded on the villain, and what if we give these insights into Batman's past, which we never get to do on the actual series.
Not really.
It was nice for that, because occasionally they will go, remember that Thomas Wayne guy, and that's as far as you get.
Appointment in Crime Alley, where they do kind of show but that doesn't focus on the past really. It is just Crime Alley as it is present. But no, you are very much correct with everything you've said there, and because it's a film, it very much treats itself as a film. When I was watching it, I never felt like I was watching a TV movie, like that kind of thing. It very much treats itself as a film, and it tries to be as all-encompassing as possible without relying too much on what it's done in the animated series up to that point. It fleshes out certain elements of the series and those characters and uses that to build on to give itself a foundation. But it doesn't really go, oh, if you don't know this character in the animated series, you won't know what's going on here. Because in fact, it probably introduces more characters here than in the animated series.
And also, other way around, if you're watching the animated series and you haven't seen this, it's not like you're going, what? Because this is, if I'm not mistaken, the one and only appearance of the Phantasm.
In the TV show, in the film, yes. In comics, she has shown
Timverse.
Yes.
I'm going to call it the Timverse. That's the article I was reading this morning about the Timverse. I was like, okay. So it was on about, these are all the films in the Timverse. That's what the article was.
Yeah, no. But it is a one and only appearance in the Timverse. And it's just very, it's his own thing while still being Batman the Animated Series. Well, it also feels quite a bit more expensive in a way. I don't know, the animation
feels
feels
that over
better.
the bit when it's kind of 3D in a way, because you see buildings kind of turn.
Yeah.
You get to see I thought you don't see that in BTAS. It's very just 2D, isn't it? It's kind of, here's a building. Do you want to see the side of the building? No, you don't get to see it. You just get to see this bit. Yes. Whereas this one was going.
Do you want to see a bit more?
Yeah.
So you want to see a bit more?
I did notice that, but then it kind of, you didn't. It was only the opening titles did that. It didn't do that for the rest of the film. But
no,
there was a bit more effort, even though the runs were really bad.
I mean, the runs.
I sent you the one where Batman's doing this, and there was one later on when Phantasm's legs were going way too high, and she was running too fast, and the legs were like doing this, and I thought, what is going on there? But besides
Oh,
that,
it's yeah, no, I know exactly where you mean, when they're chasing across the rooftops and she's like running
yes,
at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
yes, going way too fast, and the legs are going too high. I thought that is just not even humanly possible
I
doing
know.
that.
I let that slide because it's probably
Beside the runs and
they
the power ballads, I have no negative points, but they seem to be building up as we go along.
we'll discover them. That's the problem. But I do the runs and the combat and that kind of thing has never really been excellent in the animated series. It's been good, but I don't think that's its strong suit because it doesn't focus on that much really. And at the time, choreography for that kind of thing wasn't ever really seen. I still think when it comes to fight scenes in animation for Batman, the best ones have been really quite recent. Like that's when they've really kind of found their footing with fight scenes. But it doesn't really hinder it, I think. And I do think the fight scenes are better in this because they're a bit less Batman pushing someone over and a bit more Batman actually using his fists. Especially his first appearance in that like crime deal. They were dealing money. I don't really counterfeit money. That's what it was. That little beat 'em up is quite good actually. And it's very, very Batman.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that bit.
Yes. I actually used that bit in my EPQ. I did my EPQ on vigilantism, and literally on the presentation, I just got that scene up and just I got a good grade for the presentation. My actual written EPQ, C. So
Basically, they just enjoyed watching Batman then, didn't
yeah,
they?
basically that's what it turned into. Okay, so when it comes to talking about BTAS and anything to do with it, we like to focus on characters because that is where this show shines rather than the action, as we've said. And Jim, for example, I've just noticed I've got a note here of one of Jim Gordon's lines. He says it's garbage. The Batman does not kill. Period. I agree with him there.
Yes, that was the one thing I wrote down.
Yes, but then why the hell does he leave for the rest of the film and just let the cops hunt down Batman? Why does he do that?
Maybe he just got to a point where he couldn't do the paperwork anymore, and it was like, it's not Batman. I'm telling you, it's not Batman. And then everybody was going, well, what if it is, James? We'll go off. And then he's sat back at the station going, I'm telling you, it's not Batman. It's not going to be Batman. But they've all gone out just in case. That's the bit you don't see.
I see, yeah. Him just like smoking a pipe, just being like, I tell you, my money's on it not being Batman.
Not Batman. I'm telling you now, it's not Batman. You're wasting your time.
Right, Jim, who is it? Who is it then, Jim? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know, but he's not Batman.
Yeah, he's just. But I just the cops in this film.
The people higher than him in the police are going, we'll fire you if it is Batman. You do know that. And he's going, yeah, but it's not Batman. So,
Jim, do your job. You're the commissioner. Well, it's not Batman, so my work is done.
Yeah.
Jim Gordon, world-class detective, works with the Batman, but knows it isn't Batman, and then he just doesn't do it.
He's not active. He's not. He could be actively proving it's not Batman.
Yeah.
But he isn't.
Instead of letting the police force hunt him down to the point where they're gonna shoot first, they're just trying to kill him. And he's just like,
I've got box sets to get through, but not Batman. I'm gonna watch Gotham. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. See, now that's not got Batman in it, and it's not Batman, but it's got.
He's watching like I see. I'm telling you, there's no Batman.
Yeah, Jim Gordon, one of my favorite characters.
I'm in it, but Batman's not. So.
No, so just not Batman. Love it. What the hell? I know. Oh, and then Harvey Bullock. He's got such a chip on his shoulder. I forget the phrase against Batman in this film. Where he's just
that is exactly the phrase.
I realized after I'd said it, I'd got the phrase bang on, but screw it, eh? But the way he was just focusing on killing Batman, the cops, Batman's been quite good. He hasn't killed anyone up until this point, and your evidence is circumstantial at best. And they're going.
It's a bit crazy in Gotham, though, isn't it? They see somebody in a cape and they go, shoot it.
Yeah, and they just start shooting him. Like I remember in his we jump around so much in this. If you're here for continuity, ladies and gentlemen, don't expect anything because you should be used to
or a review.
Yeah.
unless you heard the question, you will be questioning why you are here.
But
We'll
In
put a
the
timestamp in for the questions. Every time we go off track, we just click that bit and then go back to where
head
you
back,
were.
yes.
Yeah.
And there'll also be about 30 timestamps which are completely irrelevant, and George has just gone, that was quite funny. That'll be what will be happening. But the moment in the chase sequence where he sends his cape up on the kind of the wooden saw thing, I forget the name of it, and then they all just shoot at it like there's no tomorrow. Batman hasn't done anything aggressive. He's just been running away. This is police brutality at its finest. I'm just saying here. He's done absolutely nothing wrong, and they're just like,
shoot.
Yeah, let's destroy him, kill him. It's Batman, and it reminds me a lot of Batman Year One, but it's Batman Year One turned up to 1,000 because they know he's a good guy.
Yeah,
And
they've
they're like,
dealt with him for 2 series or something. So actually, but no, they just decided to go. Should we just shoot him? Yeah, why not?
The conversation in the ballroom. Yeah, why not?
Because then they walkie-talkie over to Jim for permission to shoot, and he's just going, "It's not Batman." So then they just like shoot him, and then afterwards they can phone him back on the walkie-talkie, and they can go, "Oh, we shot him, but it wasn't Batman." And then he go, "I told you." It's just really smug throughout the rest of the film.
Oh, if I had any sort of money in the business, I'd pay Warner Brothers to just make a short film of just Jim Gordon's escapades for the rest of this film. Just him sitting at home on the walkie-talkie, watching the news. The moment the Phantasm shows up, see, I told you. Oh, that'd be incredible.
Batman in a. I could go to bed now. That's how it ends. Credits with a really cheesy power ballad.
But it's a power ballad, but the actor for Jim Gordon singing it. So it's really,
really like over the top of it. Trying to do that gruff thing, but it's.
Yeah. So, welcome to James Gordon, the animated series.
Yeah.
It's quite good, actually.
I'd watch that. I'd make it. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Really
anyone's
bad
listening,
animation.
Yeah. It's the same style,
hand drawn by us.
Yeah. Nothing's coloured in.
Batman.
Apart from, it's very 2D. Don't expect any 3D buildings in that.
No backgrounds. It's all done on white paper.
Oh, God. Oh, fun fact. Sorry, it's complete detour. Fun fact about Batman animated series. It was actually drawn on black paper, as opposed to white paper that most animations are drawn on, because they wanted to make every dark element pop, and that's why it's got that very kind of dark feel, because it's drawn on black paper. It's a very interesting little fun fact there. I quite like it, and it's a reason its animation style, although is similar of maybe some stuff of the time, it has a very different feel because they didn't need to color in all the black bits. It's all just done for them, which I think is really nice. But
you come here for fun facts.
Yes, and James Gordon's.
No reviews, but fun facts.
Yeah, fun facts. James Gordon's escapades and the ginger lass, as Aidan said.
Well, I never knew what her name was, so I just thought I was going to call you the ginger woman. When she showed up initially, I thought, oh, is it going to be Vicky Vale, or are we going to do like a little reference to 89? And she said a name, and I thought, I don't know what you just said, so I just kind of ignored her after that.
It's Andrea. I think it's Beaumont. But
Bocelli.
It's not Bocelli. It's not Bocelli.
Oh, it's an opera singer, isn't it?
Oh my word. But yes, that's enough about James Gordon. Well, okay, we're talking about Andrea Beaumont here. Beaumont. I can't say it's not. I've heard it like 1,000 times, but her first name is Andrea for a fact. I was gonna say, Aidan, what do you think of her? Yeah, there you go.
She's good for giving me stuff to write about Batman. As the thing about her, she was there.
Wow. Okay, I'll take this section for a little bit. I think she is a very, very interesting character because actually, it's that parallel thing again. In this whole film, we have Batman has a bad day, decides to channel that into wearing tights and beating up bad guys, but not killing them because he doesn't want anyone else to go through the same pain he went through. Then you got Joker, went through a bad day and decided, I'm going to go a little bit more insane and just become mental. You got that, and then you got the Phantasm, which is a very nice little Funko Pop actually. The Phantasm, what she does is she channels her father's death into a spirit of vengeance to avenge her father. She doesn't, and it's what she does with that. But it's a very nice parallel between all of them there, because what they all do is they all have something terrible happen in their life, and then it's different examples of how to deal with it. And I think that's quite wonderful, actually, adding that extra layer to it. The Phantasm is very kind of a nice character in the Batman universe, because it shows you how Batman could just be a spirit of vengeance, but how he clearly isn't, because he does not kill. And although he's doing it because of, like, part of what pushed him into being Batman is the anger and that kind of thing, but it's the crux of it is to stop it from happening, what happened to him, to stop that from happening to anyone else. Finishing off my Andrea point, she's a very nice character that adds an extra layer to the Batman. The animated series' mythos, also giving Batman's actual past a lot of depth and gives the character a lot of history. And Andrea is very focused on the Joker because of what? Because he was the hand that dealt the blow towards her father. But I think the Joker's really interesting in this, because he isn't just it isn't the Joker's big plot. He isn't like, I'm gonna go kill Batman. It's very Batman Under the Red Hood, actually. People want to deal with Batman, so they get the Joker involved, and they realize, whoopsie daisies, the Joker's a psychopath. That probably wasn't a good idea. I like that kind of thing where the Joker's evil and terrible. So why the hell do people think they can trust him? And when you think you can trust him, he kills you. I mean, it's like a step-by-step instructions on how to get yourself killed. Hello, Joker. Do you want to work for me? I'll give you a couple of pounds. Oh, whoopsie daisy, he's killed me. That's exactly what he does in this film. But I really do think the Joker's very good in this. I think he's stronger in this than he is in Joker's Favor or in a lot of the actual animated series. And he's quite gruesome in this and very creepy, I think. It's the Joker. I wouldn't say it's the Joker at his best in the animated series, but it's the Joker not at his best, but it's the Joker very.
Well, I wrote down
Very good.
about I put Joker taken more seriously, but still does the clown bad guy stuff. That's what I wrote.
Yeah,
Because I feel like a lot of the animated series can fall into the trap of, it's a clown. Let's do clown related things. And there are some here, like when he has the flying thing that has a clown's face on it, and he has a jetpack later on. I thought they were very silly things, but generally it was taking him quite seriously as a threat, in the way that gangs are like, we need help, let's go to the Joker. Like, it's rather than, because the animated series sometimes, I've always thought it just feels like a bunch of villains. Who's it going to be this week? Is like, and then they say, the Joker is the worst of them. And then sometimes in the animated series, I do kind of think, show us that then. Whereas this is them saying, no, he's the top dog. This is Batman's number one. And it's like, all right, okay, I can take him seriously now.
Mm-hmm.
And I quite like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there. But yeah, I think the Joker's very strong in this. Shame there's no Harley though. But I don't think Harley would have fit in this, because it would be a bit too dark
it's kind
for
of
her.
Joker hanging out in another abandoned place, which he seems to do a lot in the anime series, doesn't he? It's always somewhere abandoned, and he just like, abandoned fairground, abandoned circus, abandoned future world. It's kind of like, all right, why are there so many of these abandoned places around Gotham? If you're looking for the Joker, shouldn't you? He's got a track record now. Just go, right, where's an abandoned kind of fun place? Shall we go there? Oh, here he is.
The thing is, Joker's always ready. I'd love it if Batman actually did some detective work and just stumbled upon him just in his nightgown one day. Oh, yeah. I was making tea.
It's like, I've not even got a big plan going on. How did you know I'm here? And he's going, well, in episode 3 when you were at the fairground, in episode 5 when you were at this place, in episode 6. Come on, man, you're getting a bit predictable now.
Yeah. No, the fairground, the Future World Fairground is actually, it's a nice. It's quite. I find it really rather creepy, actually. I think it.
I really like the idea that everything was really run down and broken, but the woman, the housewife, was still chopping. And I thought that means Joker's repaired that several times over the years. And I love that. That's the one thing that he thinks. I'm not going to repair any of the carts or any of them, but her chopping away. Yeah, I'm going to repair you. I like you just in the background.
And
I quite like
install a
that.
defense mode where she just goes to town and tries to stab Andrea.
I remember that.
Hey!
I remember that bit.
Batman's tech being inspired by the world of the future when he went to visit it with Andrea, which is leading into it fleshing out Batman's past. I think that's really quite nice, and it's we see that a lot in this, and even in the series, like with the Grey Ghost. That's why his kind of persona of the Batman was inspired from or by in this series, and then his tech was inspired by the world of the future. So that's why it's kind of futuristic. It's nice,
but also
for
retro. It
yes,
actually explains the what year are we in vibe of the animated series, because it is it's what I said to you yesterday. Retro futurism is
Mhm.
is an aesthetic that I do quite like, and you see it. They bring it into Futurama quite a bit.
Yes.
Like even some of the things where it's still futuristic in Futurama, it's still got that vibe of thing. But anyway, I do quite like that it is the idea of when you're watching Batman, he's going, "What year are we in?" It's because he's literally based it on a "what year are we in" concept.
It's yeah, no. And giving it that context, I think it's nice. It's never necessary for these kind of things to give you context for the technology or the costumes or anything like that. But doing it
Yeah,
does elevate it.
I don't think anybody's ever gone, when are we going to get that comic when we explain why he designed the Batmobile that way? But if they just go, here's a comic where they explain why they designed the Batmobile that way, you go, all right, cool.
Yeah. It's cool. And it's done well in this because it just it's yeah, I just really like that. And I really like his car, and it's a great design for the car. But no, the futurism place, it's a nice dynamic, and it's very Gotham as well. Like it's something we never see in the animated series, that location, but it is still firmly this is something Gotham would have. Weird, futuristic, kind of just creepy.
And it's a bit of fun, but it's run down because we don't have fun in Gotham anymore.
No. We had
And then-
fun when Bruce Wayne was younger, but the moment he became Batman, everything's run down.
It all went downhill, yeah.
Yes. Which probably was his fault. If you think the common denominator for Gotham getting run down is Batman
It's
showing up.
Batman. Hmm.
There is actually an episode in the animated series where they delve into that, and the criminals put Batman on trial, and they're like, "You made us," and the conclusion is, "No, I didn't. You'd exist no matter what. You just have these quirks because Batman wears a cape. That's that." Sorry, I love the animated series, but yes, Batman. Why are we here, Aiden? We're here to talk about Batman.
Yes, because it's a podcast about Batman. Would
It
you
is.
believe? I really liked that it was, like I said, it was expanding things, but I liked the way it was. Right, there are two things I've always well, no, one thing I've always thought about Batman, and then one thing I heard earlier that I thought that's a really good point. I can apply that to this episode. And the one thing that I always think of is about how Alfred failed Batman, Bruce Wayne rather, and a lot of him turning into Batman is Alfred's fault. That's one thing I've always thought of. And the other thing I heard earlier that I thought was really interesting, something I'll probably be thinking about definitely on this podcast going forward and just on Batman things going forward, is that the one thing that Batman is searching for, because really, that's always, whenever you watch anything or pitch anything, the question you always ask is, what do the characters want? And to say to Batman, what does Batman want? Oh, he wants crime reduced. Bit generic, isn't it? Is that really what he wants? And the thing I heard earlier, the thing that Batman wants is he wants to find a good death. And I thought that was a really good way of putting it, that he's going around battling all these villains. This one's not quite good enough, I'll just defeat him. No, this one's not quite good enough, I'll just defeat him. And they were talking about it in the context of Dark Knight Returns, I think, the thing I was listening to earlier. It might have had something to do with Kevin Smith. But but it was about some comic where you'll probably know this when I say it, but it's probably him. It's a scene in the comics where he's driving a sports car and he's about to crash. And the panel, instead of giving a line of dialogue, it says, but this was not a good death. And then then Bruce Wayne swerves and saves his life.
Mhm.
And after hearing that and thinking about this episode, about this film for this episode, I thought that kind of really plays into it.
Yeah, that's all. That's very interesting, actually. No, but Batman looking for a good death. I agree with that up to a point. I don't agree with it in its fundamental kind of what it means on its surface level, but what it means is a deeper understanding of the character, like that. What I get, what it's getting at, I do agree with, because yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's very interesting, actually. That's very
It's
much.
something I thought I'm probably going to be thinking about that a lot
Mm,
now. Because the thing I was thinking about, since I heard the thing about Alfred failed Batman, that's the thing I was thinking about now. So this is probably going to be something else. And I was thinking, oh, this is my favorite line in this. I don't know if it was your favorite line as well, but my favorite line throughout the whole thing was when he said, "I didn't count on being happy." That was my favorite line. I thought, yes, what a good line that is. Some really nice bits of dialogue in this film. And when he said, "I didn't count on being happy," I thought that's when you can really kind of bring that concept in, because it's the idea that Batman's going around fighting. Do you think, I just want to die? I want to be with my parents. Well, I don't want to die like that, but he's like thinking, I'm looking for a good, noble death to take these down.
He doesn't have anything to lose. That's the point.
He's like,
He's
I'll make
putting
sure.
himself he's putting himself in the way to save people. And the looking for a good death thing is the point, that he's not trying to save himself in these situations. He's literally pushing himself to be in the
It's
way
like
of
that
bullets to
concept of
save the
whenever you
innocent.
see any sort of warrior in a film, and I'm thinking here just to tie it into Doctor Who, if you think of Strax the Sontaran, whenever he goes into battle, his first thing is like, "This is a noble death for a Sontaran." Like, he's not going around, Strax isn't going around going, "I'm going to die." When he goes into a battle, he thinks this is the
It's
noble and
worth
right
it.
way. And I
Yes,
think
it's
that's the kind
worth
of way you have to look.
risking his life for.
Yeah, and I think
That's
that's the way of interpreting Batman here, is that he's going around initially going, "This will never happen to anybody else." And then he goes into a fight and he goes, "I will die in the face of this," but then probably gets to a point where he goes, "Actually, this one's not worth dying over." And I think that's the idea of the when he turns the car, because he's driving to die, and he goes, "Actually, this won't be a good death," and changes his mind.
it reminds me a lot. I think that is probably from The Dark Knight Returns, because that reminds me a lot of that version of Batman, where he's old. He's so old to the point where it's like, I could die here. I've done everything I've done, but is it worth it?
Yeah,
It's very much that version of Batman, that, but with the main
applying
version
it.
of Batman, I'd say him. I don't think he's ever in a fight and he thinks, "Well, this isn't something I'm gonna die." Like, I don't think it's ever that. I think it is just he fights. He won't let himself die for this, because it isn't a big enough cause to the point where it's not worth surviving to save others. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
So it's very interesting, that, and the fact that is making me think looking for a good death thing means it's very well thought out, that.
But I thought the way that when he says, "I didn't count on being happy," I think that's the kind of, you can apply that to it, and that seemed like saying, "Well, I always thought I'm just going to be Batman, but now I'm actually kind of happy with my life, and I can't be bothered to be Batman right now.
Hmm.
And actually, I don't really want to die, because suddenly I don't want to join you. I want to join old Ginger Lass, and I want to be with her instead of you." And I kind of,
It's
when I say you, I'm talking to the parents, for the people that aren't following like I would be. Who are we talking about? But I thought that was a good way of applying context to that, as something, a new concept that I hadn't thought about until about 2 hours ago.
often when it comes to Batman, you do forget that there are instances in his life where he is quite happy, and often he cuts it off to be depressing, to be the Batman. And with
I also quite
Andrea,
liked as well that before he was just kind of like vigilante with a mask, just kind of, he wasn't Batman yet at that point, if I was following it correctly.
yes, correct.
And then it's after Ginger Lass is like, "You're dumped." That's when he then goes, the worst reaction being dumped ever, by then going, "I'm going to dress up as a bat."
Hmm.
And Alfred just standing there going, "Okay." Like, he doesn't go, Are you sure?
No, because Alfred is in that moment. No, he is stunned and shocked by what he's witnessing. He's like, "What the heck?" Like he's scared, and that's what it is really. But it's Batman in this. His reaction to Andrea and all that is very. He can be like, obviously Batman can be happy and that kind of thing, but often he pushes it to the side. But in this, we see do you remember the scene in the motorcycles where he saves the guy who's being robbed, and then he gets distracted by Andrea, and then he loses? Do you remember that moment? That's
Yes.
very that basically puts everything we're saying here into like a nice little point if you want to kind of see it visually. Because what happens is it's Batman being Batman, but then he remembers he cares about someone. He can't put himself on the line the same way he would previously, because if he dies, it will hurt her. That's what that is really. And it kind of shows you, does Batman actually care about Alfred in this series? Thinking, just thought about that.
I really liked as well the bit where it was actually another line that I wrote down. It was the bit when actually it was the I wrote ties into conflict with Alfred. It's when he does go, "You don't know everything about me." That was a very emo thing to say, isn't it? But when he goes, "Alfred, you don't know everything about me," I thought, you don't actually really like each other, do you?
In
He
the
messed your life. He messed your life up, and you don't care about his life.
in the animated series, they do have a connection, but I feel like if there is one thing the animated series doesn't quite do perfectly, I think it is, for me, the relationship between Batman and Alfred, because it is really good in moments, and I think it's wonderful in The Forgotten, and I think it's quite good in most of this series. But I think, like in that exact moment you just mentioned there, it's a bit like you guys could be a bit nicer to each other sometimes.
But it is. That's like I've said this about 3 times on this podcast already. It's just like, if Alfred just got him therapy, he literally wouldn't be Batman. Alfred failed him.
Failed or turned him into a crime-fighting vigilante who wears tights. Tomato, tomato, really.
But for the sake of sanity, just get the man bloody therapy.
His therapy is wearing tights, okay?
What's the DC equivalent of What If? Do they have one? They must have, mustn't they?
I think they do, but it's basically just Elseworlds, that's it.
Elseworlds. Well, I want to see the one of that where Bruce Wayne's parents are killed, and then Alfred just puts him into therapy.
Be a brilliant comic.
And then he gets to 20 years old. This is where it ends. He gets 20 years old, and he just goes, "Okay, time to run my empire. Time to run my Wayne empire." That's it. It ends there.
It'd be interesting to see that, but I do believe that even that without the Batman, Gotham would be a much worse place, you know. And in Batman continuity,
but all the fairgrounds are still standing. People are still having fun.
There's
People aren't
still
scared
a world
to
fair.
go out.
Yeah.
Crimes happening, but they're not dressed up as weirdos, weird gimmicks, so the police can deal with them. Right, what is actually the benefit of Batman here?
No, but
get criminals, but they wouldn't be doing their wildly dangerous plots because they won't be like, let's shoot people with question mark guns.
They would still be to their same extreme. It's just they wouldn't have exactly the same gimmick. Some of them would. Clayface, he's not to do with Batman at all. Joker in the animated series, he's not Joker because of Batman. Like there are specifics. Two-Face, Batman's fundamentally responsible for that in the animated series. What the hell were you thinking there? But they would still be that. I will just fight you there.
I want to write their Elseworlds comic where it's just really boring. And it's just like, guys, then the final page is just like a PSA where it just says, get therapy. That's all it says.
I love
Have
it.
therapy.
I love it. DC, if you're listening, Aiden's got a comic book idea for you here.
They
No one
never
would really. You can put that in
no one will read
hospitals.
it. No one will read it, and everybody will be mad at it because it just completely deconstructs the entire concept of Batman. And everybody who's ever loved Batman will kind of go, huh.
But in
Oh yeah.
But in Batman's mythos, Batman is actually, there is an element of mysterious figure, not fundamental. What's the word? Inevitable being the Batman is, Yes, because in no matter what, like comic or whatever, so you got Gotham by Gaslight, different time period, all that kind of stuff. Batman still happens. Batman Beyond, which is technically a continuation of the
That's
animated
post-Batman,
series.
though, isn't it?
Yes, but it's still kind of the Batman being an inevitable figure in that sense. There are lots of, and like in the comics,
Okay,
if
so my
Bruce
second
Wayne
my,
dies in the comics, if Bruce Wayne dies, Thomas Wayne turns into Batman.
my
Batman
se-
is a
my
fundamental
sequel to my Elseworlds comic. Then I
thing.
will do two. I will do two for DC.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I know you don't need to pay me, DC. I just want to do these as a
No,
concept.
they'll pay you not to do these.
First one is yes. Okay, DC, give me money or I will write them.
Yeah.
with the really bad animation that we said earlier. Hey.
Jim Gordon will be in every other scene. Just saying,
Yeah,
it's
and
not Batman.
ends with a power ballad as well. Everything will always end with a power ballad from now on. No, but the first one will be, what if Alfred got therapy for Bruce Wayne? And the second one will just be, okay, we've still got weird villains. Nuke Gotham. And they just wipe it off the face of the earth. They go, because clearly in the 1800s, we had a weird Batman guy. Now we've got a weird, like, Bruce Wayne's not Batman, but there's some other Batman guy. We've got a Batwoman, all these things going on. So actually, Gotham's just the problem. So we'll just take it off the face of the earth. That's the other comic.
So you're saying, no, what you're saying here is without Batman, the American government would just nuke Gotham. There you go.
Yeah, because the problems with
no. That's what you're saying. That's it. That's the
because
crux
the
of everything.
problem will still persist. Because I've said the villains won't have their gimmicks, but the villains will still be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'll still be other Batman, as you've just pointed out. 200 years before Bruce Wayne, there's a Batman apparently. So, really, Gotham's the problem here. Just putting all this money into the police force.
Yeah, just put it in one big nuke.
Start it again.
Yeah, start from scratch. Lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying this Batman talk here,
What happens when Aiden hasn't watched the thing we're talking about? He kind of derails it into some weird what-if scenario.
You can tell you've got Marvel's What If on the brain, which I'm looking forward to, actually.
It's so, because I've been reading this Avengers comic. I said this to you yesterday. I wrote a note. That note I've just said about Alfred, I wrote Jarvis and then scribbled it out and went, for God's sake, wrong Butler. And then I had to write Alfred afterwards. Like, for God's sake.
I'm just mean. Disappointment for you, Aiden. My disappointment for you is immeasurable for not watching this. One day, like
I'll watch it again.
You'll be on your deathbed, and I will force you to watch this.
I'll just watch it again someday, and I'll message you at the time. We might not have spoken for 25 years, and I'll message you at the time, and I'll go, Phantasm's quite good, isn't it? And you'll go, yes.
Really?
I'll watch it on the 100th anniversary. That's what I'll do. 2093, I'll watch it. I'll be 92, but I'll watch it.
God. It's going to be weird when Batman is 100 years old in 1939. In 2039, I'm going to be 39. Well, 38 actually, when Batman's 100 years old.
And you'll question, why am I enjoying something that's 100 years old?
No, my question, it's just the point is.
Because that's how I feel currently with I like my old horror films. They're all closely coming up on 100 years old. One of my favorite ones is currently 95 years old, and you kind of think that is from a completely different era. That's before the war. Why do I still enjoy this? But it's that's what Batman will get to. There'll still be about 60 different Batmen at that time. They won't know who's playing him anymore. Warner Brothers will be in dissolution and disarray, and it'll just be like, what is this character? Why are we still following him?
Robert Affleck and Christian Clooney in BTAS, the Phantasm.
Yes, the Phantasm.
The name of the episode. What I was saying, the point was really, Batman's going to be going on for 100 years soon. It's like, how does a guy in tights stick around for so long? Well, the reason he sticks around for so long is because of all of these.
People are still thinking of new stories for that one character as well. You just go, a bloke whose parents were killed, he dresses up as a bat. 100 years later, people are still doing things with that.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah. Oh no, right, hear me out, lads. Owls, Illuminati. You with me? Yeah. Then that's what we're
Yeah.
getting now, and it's like it's such an interesting thing how fiction can. Well, no, non-fiction as Batman is obviously. If anyone is listening and you think Batman is a fictional character, he's not.
Well, it's weird.
Um,
We say this, but do you remember 2016? How can you not? How can you forget the clown craze? In
I remember.
2016,
I'm
when
with you.
everybody was dressing up as clowns, going outside schools and weird things like
Mhm.
that. There was one in this country. There was a full news report. There was a guy who had dressed up as Batman with like a fully working suit, like he'd spent years on making this suit, and he saw this as his opportunity to patrol the streets and stand on rooftops and finally fulfill his dream as Batman. Guess where he was from?
Was he from Nottingham?
He was from
I
Nottingham.
forgot. Is everyone in Nottingham a bit insane? You had Robin
Where?
Hood, then you get Batman.
He was, but it's this weird Batman connection that Nottingham has, because we literally had Batman. Like, we literally had Batman. There's a place here called Gotham, and Wollerton Hall was used as Wayne
Manor.
Manor in Dark Knight Rises. It was like, why is Nottingham got some weird Batman connection? What's that all about?
Nottingham's such a.
Literally had Batman.
Be
He
quite funny
existed,
if he's still.
fighting clowns.
Yeah.
What was that weird? That's a weird point where you go, are we in a simulation? How can this actually be happening?
I just want to
There's
know that guy.
actually a man in the street chasing clowns away dressed as Batman, and we're accepting this as normal.
He probably woke up one morning and was like, finally,
It's time.
and just suited up.
It was like a fully working suit, like, the spike things they proper shot out, and he had a cape and the cat, he had the full thing, like something he'd been working on for years. And it was like this, he was like going, it's my chance. I'm never going to get the chance to do this again. What we're going to do in 5 years, have a Riddler phase and everybody's jumping around asking each other riddles. So no, with the closest
Riddle me this. Bap.
Closest I'm going to get is clowns lurking around outside schools. So let's go.
I like to think he's still out there, but no one's seen him.
Yeah.
He's still fighting crime.
Every now and then somebody goes, what was that noise? And you thought you heard something upstairs. It's actually just him running along the roof.
He doesn't fight crime anymore. He just runs along roofs.
He lurks.
He's become what the clowns did. He's become the very thing he swore to destroy.
We have this other guy in Nottingham who's called the Cockle Man, and he's like in his 90s. He's basically this guy who for years he roams around the streets at night when there's nights out selling seafood. That's literally what he does. And he's guy in his 90s. He's got walking stick now, and that's what he does. And every now and then you'll be in town sometimes, like, oh my god, it's the Cockle Man, and you get really excited when you see him. Basically, Batman will be, when Cockle Man dies, Batman will be the new version. It'll just be an accepted thing. You just see some guy stood on a roof going, oh, it's Batman. Look. Anyway, so how are you? You just keep talking. That's the point it'll get to.
It'd be great if we got all these billionaires, but none of them have decided to be Batman. And it's like, come on.
Well, it's because they're all in space, aren't they?
Have we installed the SAM turrets so they can't come back down?
It'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it? Branson, Musk, and Bezos have all gone up to space. It'd be quite funny if we went, you're not coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, you put all that money into a spaceship.
As they're coming down into Earth's atmosphere, they're all identified as UFOs and they're shot down. We're doing a proper podcast now. What's going on?
I know.
Like a proper podcast.
This is news mixed in with
just people chatting about funny things. You've got to keep this in, because we've suddenly doing a proper podcast.
I mean, this is the best discussion this episode has had, because you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. This is amazing. I've never done a proper podcast before.
I know. This will be the next spin-off now, because we've given everyone a teaser here.
Yeah.
My God.
We'll call it the What If podcast. That is just taking a weird concept and running with it.
Brilliant.
With a third host, the real life Batman.
Yes.
He doesn't speak. It'll be like this. It'll be a Zoom format. It'll be me, you, and then him. But he's just sort of lurking.
Oh no, he can lurk in one of the rooms for one day. So he'll come to like your house and just behind your little bookshelf behind you. Then the other day he'll just be here.
So for people that just listen, they've got no idea. But if you watch,
but they could be imagining something incredible.
Batman in the background. So, Mask of the Phantasm.
was
You
quite
can't
a
cut
film.
any of that. That was
No.
great.
I mean, I'm gonna probably have to cut some of the Phantasm talk for that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But no, Mask of the Phantasm. And Batman in Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah,
I do.
I went on a bit, so you
My
talk
my
about
my
your
turn.
turn.
Flamethrower. That's a quote from Iron Man.
I know.
Look, you looked at me like you were just disappointed in me. I'd assumed it's either because you got the reference or
Well, I
you
was
just
thinking, I'm supposed to be the Marvel fan on this podcast.
just
The tagline is a Marvel fan and a DC fan unite, and you're suddenly making a Marvel
Listen.
reference.
I'm
Well,
quoting Iron Man,
That's
who's
my
like the
job.
closest to Batman in Marvel, apart from Moon Knight. But that's just because he's got lots of
And
money.
Daredevil.
Well, he doesn't have any money. Doesn't count.
No,
What is Batman's superpower? Money. You see? That's. But no, Daredevil
But Tony
probably is the
Stark
closest,
and
yeah.
Bruce Wayne would hate each other though. So
Yeah,
one's
probably.
really flat, one's really flashy, and the other one's like all really moody. Anyway, Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes, Mask of the Phantasm. I think Batman in it is wonderfully done, and having those flashbacks with him starting out in his career, or with Andrea, and all that, I think is wonderful actually, and giving Batman these extra, just bits of backgroundness. Like for example, one of my favorite scenes of this whole film is when he's stopping some sort of criminal thing. I don't know if it's trafficking or whatever it is, but he stops it in like ninja outfit because he's not Batman yet. And that's one of my favorite moments because you see so many prototypes for things he has in the future. Like you have his little shurikens, you have his terrible belt, which is just flaps. And then you see him fighting and you see them not, but then the out of everything, you have the truck as well. But out of everything you have there's a quote from Batman, he says, everything was perfect, but they weren't scared of me. And that really kind of puts it into perspective. Batman is great, but if the criminals aren't scared of you, they're gonna kill you quite easily.
Mm.
And that added it's all of the flashbacks and all of the extra elements here that add stuff to the animated series. They're very specific to the animated series, but they're all elements that can elevate Batman in the wider universe because they show you examples of this can very quite possibly be what this version of Batman did. Like if you look at like Batman, what's it called? No, let's just look at Batman Begins, for example. You don't see much of Batman fighting crime before he's got the suit, but you could quite easily look at this scene in the animated series and be like, that could quite easily be the
I'm
same
sure
character.
that happened here.
Exactly. Yeah. It elevates not only the series but the character, and it gives you a bit more perspective.
I thought that in the way that because if I'm not mistaken, this is the first BTAS film. So
Yes.
I thought it was quite interesting that for a film, which I, again, in this article that I read this morning, said it's one of 2 of the animated films that have actually had a cinematic release, even though it was kind of messed up and nobody went.
What
But,
was the other one?
Killing Joke.
The Killing Joke?
Yeah.
Wasn't very good, that one. Shame.
But it had a cinematic release, so they're the only 2, apparently. I thought it was interesting that for a film that they've put out in cinemas, they went, you know what we're going to do? An original villain. I thought that's quite a bold thing to do, that is. Like in the Batman the Animated Series, as we discussed last week, a little card will come up now. As we discussed last week, they created their own concepts. They created their own villains. They created their own backstories. They created their own new concepts. Harley Quinn comes from it, all these things. And they went, we're going to do another one. And we're going to make a film out of it. And that's quite a bold thing to do. Yeah, we'll have the Joker in it, but he's not really the villain. He's a villain, but he's not the villain. And it's that same thing you were just saying there. It's like it expands Batman the Animated Series specifically, and you give a new context for things going forward. If you rewatch things, you can go, oh, maybe that's explained by Ginger Lady and blah, 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 blah. I still don't know her name. Ginger Lady, blah, 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 blah. But then even comics then think, well, let's stick the Phantasm in this. Not our character, not technically our character, but I'm sure we can get the rights to it. Do we have the rights? Yeah, let's go for it.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what happened. The Phantasm has made appearances in comics now. And it really shows you that the animated series basically any character they've added has shown up again
Mm.
in a wider universe, albeit either
And
extremely successful or somewhat successful. But with Mask of the Phantasm, the only reason that character didn't really reappear until recently was because it was so well known for this specifically, and people were scared they were going to do it badly, not because it wasn't a bad character. So it's
well, because
really
they thought kind of, what else can we add to it? And then it wasn't
exactly.
until presumably somebody went, I know we can add to it, and then they went with that. But
But
obviously, it's not as big as Harley Quinn has become, for example.
no,
But it's still very much its own thing.
yes. But I think Harley Quinn, you've got more room to have a character there because she isn't purely a villain. She can be a villain, she can be an anti-hero, she can be a good guy. Whereas the Phantasm is, we didn't get to see much of her because it's only one film. So you only really got to see a specific side of her as a character. Whereas Harley in the animated series, you get villain Harley, you get good Harley, and it shows you've got all of these examples that you can do, run with it. But I do really think I really like how this film fleshes out Batman. I really do. Another this is probably my other favorite moment, if not my favorite moment in all of Batman the Animated Series of all time. It is the moment where he first puts on the suit, like the cape and the cowl. The music mixed in with Alfred's reaction, mixed in with the fact you don't actually see the suit, like apart from being in silhouettes and shadows, and you see the eyes do the little squint thing, which was exactly the same framing as in the opening titles for the animated series itself. That whole scene is wonderful for me. But I just think this whole film is very, very good, and it elevates the series. And I think
It was very good. It just hasn't blown me away the way it should because I was so tired.
yes, it's
From
not the
what I
film's fault; it's entirely yours.
Yes, but from what I have gained from it, especially going into Batman's character, as I've discussed, and just kind of really allowing me to think about Batman differently and just showing that if he has someone to care for him, he actually has less enthusiasm to beat people up. Is quite just a nice thing to see that you don't really get the chance to see in the animated series, where it's just 20 minutes. Go right, get him in his costume. Let's get fighting people. There we go. The end. Join us. Come back next week. So it's a nice way just to expand on that. And that's something I can appreciate from it, even if I don't really understand what happened. And I've had to watch 3 scenes while doing this podcast. Yeah.
But no, yeah, no, I agree with you there, and that's basically the crux of this film. That's what it does best, really. It's also much darker than the actual animated series I've found. This whole film, like it does things much darker, and it's very
I
much
also, because I thought actually is this aimed at a more adult series, but it's exactly the same age rating. And I was a bit surprised by that. I thought, because I remember thinking, watching it, this feels like because I watched a thing before, probably on the special features of the Batman the Animated Series, where they've said, well, it was originally aimed for kids, but then we basically realized it was mostly just adults watching it anyway. So we kind of adulted it up a bit. Same thing the Clone Wars did. It's like,
yeah.
we're aiming this at kids. There's no kids watching it. Okay. And then they went in a different direction. And I felt like that's what this was doing. But then I like them going, hey, it's a kids' film. Kids won't get it. It's a kids' film. That's what it felt
It's got
like.
Batman in it. Yeah.
Yeah. The kids would go, hey, Batman.
Like you did.
What's going
Basically,
on?
you were the
I
kid
was a
going to watch
child
this.
watching this. I
Yes.
was going, Batman. I was focusing on Batman. Anytime anything else is going, who's that?
Yeah, that's the dynamic we have there.
I really shouldn't have done the one episode we're probably going to do in this podcast where I've not seen it before when I'm ridiculously tired.
Probably not, but it's been quite good so far. We've spoken about Elon Musk for some godforsaken reason. But it's very much this film feels a lot like The New Adventures of Batman, because that's much darker than Batman the Animated Series, I think. I think it's too dark.
It's not very good though, is it?
No, it is
I've not
good.
seen it, but it's not supposed to be very
No,
good.
it is good. I do really quite like it. But it isn't as good as the animated series because I feel like it tries to be too dark. Like it tries to be too much something or too weird or something. I really do quite like it, but it does get quite a few things wrong. Like especially Batman's character, they make him way too moody in places to the point where it's like you're just an asshole, like genuinely, and it's like, eh. But so this does feel like proto that. So it feels like they made like this is this film is as dark as Batman, I think, should go in Batman the Animated Series, this film, because it does it just to that point, but it's really well balanced. The New Adventures, too far. But there are still some good elements in it because I do quite like the art style. But yeah, Batman Mask the Phantasm. I don't have anything more to say.
To answer the question, yes, it encapsulates everything Batman the Animated Series is. Maybe if you really want to use it as the big poster for Batman the Animated Series, chuck a couple more villains in just as references or flashback scenes or just even in the papers or something. But I think it works. It's very good. Well done.
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Well done. You've done well. But I do
You've done
think
well for making the most popular animated film.
yes, but I do think it is. I agree with you. I do think it is Batman the Animated Series at its best because it fleshes out what Batman the Animated Series does. Fleshes out Batman as a wider character, adds new characters that are used up until today.
It's very much a lot of what we were saying last week, but as a whole, instead of across 5 episodes and thinking about the rest of the series, it's going, yeah, this is it in 70 minutes. Here, have it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I say 70 minutes and not 73 minutes, which is the exact length because that last 3 minutes was the power ballad. So the 70 minutes of this film
really good. The
are
73
amazing.
minutes.
Questionable.
Yeah, the power ballad, I don't really understand what that was.
70 minutes, 5 stars. 73 minutes, 3 stars.
Oh,
what are we doing next week, George?
Next week we are doing. Now, this one is more in line with our classic style of podcasting with EDW. Next week we are talking Batman Forever.
Quite timely, as there is a new it's not out for a bit, but there is a new documentary coming out about Val Kilmer, about how the man's a maniac. But I've read an article and it's quite funny, some of the way people didn't like him very much. So it's going to be quite interesting to watch it from this, again, as we did with Batman 89. Hadn't seen in years, haven't seen Batman Forever for years. And then now watching it through the lens of nobody liked this man and it was awful to work with. It's going to be quite entertaining. I'm laughing while saying it because it's not like, oh, he was awful. It's like the man is a psychopath.
Like Jared Leto level, or what are we thinking?
Kinda. And on Top Gun as well, people were like, I don't want to be left in a room with this man.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's holy guacamole. Batman.
So that the documentary that's coming out is basically his side of the story. That's what's coming out. So it's quite interesting. I never knew this about Val Kilmer. It's quite amazing. I didn't know he was such a loose cannon. So it's quite funny to me.
I mean, it's of that time where the loose cannonness doesn't really spread around quite as much as nowadays, where the internet can just. I could tweet it and someone would probably stumble upon it, But yeah, next week, Batman Forever. It's more classic EDW. We'll be discussing, is it really as bad as
I heard a fan theory as well today, which I'll say next week about those 2 films and how they're so different from the other 2 in that universe.
Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone.
So join us next week.
Yes.
Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
Goodbye.